over the years that involve the media, but we do have a chance to communicate directly throughout all this. So I'm appreciative that he's here and he can hear my comments directly, which are not to cast any type of aspersions from the service he provides to this county, but it's to direct anything that I want to say directly in terms of the question that I often receive. What do you and the 6 other people that have joined you over your last 12 years of service have to do with the sheriff's office? And my immediate response is, as we are entrusted in terms of providing ultimately for the well-being and care of the county in terms of what we do as members of this council, we do support the sheriff's office as we do as in any other entity of public service, whether it's the EMS, the coroners here, fire service, solicitor's office, public defender's office, even code enforcement. Public safety is one of the major areas that we have entrusted to us. It's a considerable portion of our budget. And so with that, anything that we can do, we do it on behalf of the interests of the people first. We get a number of requests year in and year out. We have had a number of requests year in and year out from the sheriff's office. And it's not taken with pleasure. If it's something that's going to be for the good of people, that we have to say no to certain things, but we do involve ourselves in the budgetary process. So with that being said, the sheriff is duly elected as constitutional officer, tax collector, we can say just every position that you can think of that has an entity that represents this county. And so as a constitutional officer, he does have the ability to do what he so chooses with his officers. But as you know, my comments directly were made involving an incident that occurred on the 13th of this month at 4:15 a.m. What this council has considered in the past, and has tried, and I know Dave has worked on this a number of times in terms of addressing people directly in this community. He's been on council the longest. I know Roger worked on the committee previously with David, as well as our former chairman. This issue in terms of being able to discharge weapons in this county has come up. It's no secret this is a strongly favored county for supporting Second Amendment rights, and all of us up here, we do take that very seriously when we do exercise that right. But what I can say in terms of what this council has before, there never has been an ordinance in place to address issues like this. Because when you have a question as it relates to the equal protection under the law, that should ensure that law is made and enacted for each and every one. But you also want equal treatment under the law. And so that's the issue that we bring to your consideration as a community. And I know council, in our discussions, we are prepared to go forth at some point to look at an ordinance that will deal with time factor. So issues like this won't have to occur. Do you know that just in the last 3 years, when 911 is contacted, each and every time we've had almost 1,200 calls, 2018, 1,223 calls as it relates to discharging weapons in the county. 2019, 1,126. 2020, the year's not out, 1,106 calls. But when it's okay for someone to say, well, there's nothing we can do about it because we don't have anything in place. There's nothing that can prohibit people from coming in their backyard in this county from discharging a weapon. Or if they were on the side of the road. But you parse it out when, unfortunately, these stellar young men have been painted in a certain light. And so that's what brought my comments, and I know there will be other comments. I know this room doesn't reflect everyone that's in this building that would also like to address this council, if not directly in their words, but with their presence. And so I just want to thank my members of council for giving me the opportunity to have the latitude. I know I represent a very specific district, but I represent a very specific demographic in this county as well. And so I must speak to that each and every time when something like this comes up. You know, I can tell you personally, as I've spoken in the last several months, as my experience as a black man in this country, and a person that was raised in the church, both by my mother, my grandmother, and my father. I can tell you the experience that we've had after 401 years has been an experience that has heavily depended upon God, like others. But we also know that religion at times, based upon our experiences, often used to conceal and conveil what the heart of a person really is. Now, I say directly to my sheriff as I look to him, as a Christian brother to another Christian brother. Right is right, but wrong can be wrong and right is wrong in this instance. And so with that, I'm saying to you directly, Sheriff, that we will want you to take a look at the things that you say. You do have a following, you do have a base, and I know you play to that base. We speak on behalf of this council to work for the betterment of the entire council. But what I will say to you directly, be mindful. Be mindful of the things that you say, because you do represent us all, whether we're Christian, Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, black, white, rich, or poor. We simply want to be treated fairly in this community. And so we're not saying that you're trying to hide under the veil of Christianity, but we just want to make sure that you understand that. And I know that my members work each and every day very hard. I know this man, I call him Tom Brady of council, because he's been here the longest. Now I know David Britt. He will be a champion of the sheriff. He will be a champion of Rusty Clevenger. He will be champion of our clerk of court. He will be champion of every elected office. Because it would be very hard for David or any other member of this council to sit up here and try to condemn anyone when you simply can click a button at any time and Google Spartanburg County. We're all working for Spartanburg to advance. And so you can't work on the behalf of Spartanburg and then try to detract certain elements of it, because livability and a decent place to live is what we all want. And so if there's any type of situation that's negative involving law enforcement, we work on behalf of economic development in this county. It's not a good thing. We want the best to come here. We want the best environment and the best situation for each and every person in this county. So I speak to that directly in terms of what county council represents when we interact with the sheriff's office. There's no need for division. There's no need for labeling. We don't talk about partisanship. When we go into our deliberations up here, we can joke on one point that was raised recently in terms of what a concept was that I was voting against, the automatic tag readers. You know, I have a certain perspective as it relates to certain elements of the community, and we vote on that and we move on. But we work on the behalf of what's good for this county. And so that's what we want to move forward with this county. So I would say that for everyone that's here, we do this in the spirit of love, but we do this in the spirit of unity. It's not just a saying that we give you one Spartanburg. We are up here each and every time, not just for meetings, but what we do day in and day out to work on the behalf of this community. And so I want to let you know it's not mean-spirited. It's not trying to, quote-unquote, call someone out, but we want to call the right thing. And so when you represent us as our leading law enforcement figure in this county, we want to make sure that you enforce people than you may realize at the time in which you give those. And so we want to work with you. We want to work with this community. We want to work with this council. David, as I said, as Tom Brady has worked with over 20 different members of the county. He's worked with 2 different sheriffs. He's worked with 4 different coaches. Our chairman of county council. And so when you hear him and people ask me, well, David always has something to say every county council meeting. David's going to be the person that's going to promote the good of the council. So he's not going to say anything bad. And it's not his job always to call out things in a certain manner, because we do want to move forward. The same thing in terms of when we all can say we get individual calls about weapons being discharged in various elements of our district. We've all got them. And it all becomes a problem. We're going to do something about that. So we don't want this to linger. And I'm going to make sure we do something in terms of hopefully moving forward with this before my time is up, so we don't have this issue, so we can parse it out and say it's wrong, and we're going to label the activities and the conduct of others. We're not going to label a certain group of people, black or white. We're going to make sure that everyone's treated fairly and the same under the law. So I simply want to say that, and I want to thank these members of the council, but I also want to let people know the extent and the reach, the aim, and the purpose of the council. And so I do appreciate everyone that's come here, both in support of the sheriff and in support of this position that's going out, and this clarion call for us to act. I can tell you, even under the auspices of COVID, this is a wonderful thing to see people come to this council and be able to react and address an issue that's before this community. But again, we want to make sure this is done peacefully. We want to make sure this is done with respect. And of course, when we all leave here, just know we're not going to another county. We're not going to another community. We're all coming together here in Spartanburg. But remember, we're all working on behalf of Spartanburg, not to tear it down, not to detract, not to pull us apart, not to paint us differently, not to make us against them, but we're going to come together. And I want the sheriff and I want everybody else that stands up here and raises their right hand in this very room that takes an oath to remember that each and every time something comes out your mouth. And so we do appreciate that. And Mr. Chairman, I thank you for my time that you gave me to speak.
Thank you, Michael. Next committee is land use. Roger, that chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This afternoon, during the committee meetings, we discussed a change to the